So I'm going to try and show you the part that I kind of unhooked here to make this seat a little bit more comfortable. So you got a zipper over here and there's a zipper over there. And then you've got a couple of elastic cords and you got to unhook these elastic straps. And then lastly, you've got, I don't even know what you want to call that. It's like a channel snap or a channel hook or whatever you would like to call it. So anyway, you disconnect all that and then you can get in here to your seats. And if you go right up here, you can see where I unhooked it, and I did the same thing on the other side. It's kind of like a J hook on the end, and I just pulled them out of the holes and let it sit there. And what that did is it relaxed the foam a little bit right there in the middle of my back. So now when I sit in the seat, it feels like the seat's in pretty much any other truck. If you wanted to loosen it up even more than that, you would have to attack this area right here where that looks like a straw connecting about 4 pieces of wire. You would have to attack that area right there if you wanted to loosen it up even more. But with that little bar right there unhooked, I've test fit the seat and it feels a little bit better to me now. It was really killing me like right in this area. You know, I mean, you're supposed to have lumbar down here, but these Ford seats push on you up here. It's like the exact opposite of the human spine. I have no idea who got this passed through into production, but my 13 was the same way, and these 19 seats are just like it. Absolutely horrible. So getting in there and unhooking some wires or bending some wires or fooling around with some wires can really make these seats a lot more comfortable for you guys. So you might want to give that a shot. I was going to change out the crankcase ventilation box, or as Ford calls it, the oil separator. I bought a brand new one here, as you can see. But I opened the box and noticed that it has some significant damage on it. It almost looks like that a mouse or something has been chewing on it. I don't know, but obviously I can't use this. That's a bummer. So I guess that project will have to wait for another day, but this is supposed to be the latest and greatest part number on this thing. And you can see that it looks a little bit different as far as the design and all that, but functionally is probably the same. But I gotta send it back and get another one, so we'll put that off until another day. All right, so let's talk about the JVC head unit that I put in this truck. I've had this thing for a while, so I'm gonna give you some thoughts on this. First of all, so this truck came with a little 4.3-inch non-touch screen, which is the standard screen that you would get in an XL model or an XLT model back in this era. I think the new Super Duties that are coming out now, I could be wrong on this, but I think they have a larger touch screen pretty much standard. Everything keeps getting larger and more sophisticated as time goes on. But if you buy a used F-150, F-250, F-350, if it's a base model, you're probably going to have that little bitty non-touch screen, which is what I had. And I hated that thing because not only is it just less useful, but when I put the truck in reverse, the backup camera, I mean, you could barely see it. It was terrible. So I wanted a slightly larger screen and I wanted a touch screen, and started looking at just upgrading to the I think it's an 8.4 inch maybe, factory Ford system, but that's about a $2,000 cost to do that. So I was like, nope, not doing that. So then I started looking at aftermarket options, and this is what I settled on. So this is the JVC 785. I think the full part number is KW-785BW. And this is usually going to be somewhere in the $400 to $500 ballpark. There are a lot of head units out there on the market that are in this price range. I didn't want to spend a ton of money, but I didn't want a cheap one either. There are some things that I really, really wanted. Now, I don't ever you know, hook up my phone and stream music and podcasts and stuff like that through my phone. I don't fool with any of that. I listen to satellite radio most of the time, and if I'm not listening to satellite radio, I'm listening to terrestrial radio. So I didn't need anything super fancy. And this head unit allowed me to buy the optional Sirius XM tuner that I connected to it. You probably remember that from the installation video. So I've got Sirius XM on here. I've got my FM AM radio on here. Wireless Android Auto is the other thing that I really wanted, because I had that in the Ram and it was super nice. You know, I've got a mount here for my phone. I can just put my phone up there. I can plug in directions, and then it'll transpose everything over here to the larger screen. So I can use this as navigation, even though it does not have its own native navigation. That's the main thing that I use Android Auto for, is Google Maps and finding directions. So I wanted wireless Android Auto, and I wanted Sirius XM capability. I wanted a touch screen and something with a little bit of a more high resolution backup camera. I'm a pretty simple guy, and that's the stuff that I really wanted, and this JVC unit fit the bill perfectly. So I just want to kind of briefly show you a few things about this, and then we'll talk about how it's been working out for me. So you can see here that this is the home screen, and you can move these icons around. You can put different things here. This is like your quick launch menu. So like I said, you can put whatever you want to here, but since I'm a simple dude, I've got my Sirius XM radio, FM radio, my Android Auto, and then telephone if I want to call somebody real quick or something like that. You got the clock here, and you can put different background pictures on there. I've got a nice little thunderstorm back there since I'm a weather guy. So pretty straightforward. There's a button right here. You hit that home button. No matter where you're at, you can hit the home button and it'll take you back here. So that's pretty convenient. You've got your volume up and down right here. We'll talk about that more in a minute, because this is one thing that I don't like. And then up here, you've got a microphone button. This is for if you want to give it voice commands. So you hit that button once, and then it will receive voice commands. And then up here, you've got a function button. So basically, you know, obviously if you hit tuner, and I got to keep the volume all the way down because I don't want any copyright strikes here, but you can go through here and you've got multiple presets. So you've got like FM1, FM2, FM3 right here. You also have the same for AM, and then your presets are over here on the right. You got an arrow button here if you want to expand that to actually see more detail about, you know, which frequencies are your presets. So that's pretty handy. And then over here on this side, you've got an arrow where you can change like how it seeks and how it tunes when you hit the button. You know, does it just go step by step by step through the frequency, or does it go from one preset to the next to the next? You can change that kind of stuff here. Mono versus stereo. You know, if you're in an area where your reception's not that great, you can hit monaural sound and then it'll maybe come through a little better, so forth and so on. So you've got some things there you can change. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. You can see it has some information about what you're listening to on there. So there's not a whole lot to it. Doesn't need to be a whole lot to it. Down here, you can see your seek button. Here's your EQ. So all you gotta do is hit that, and then you can adjust your sound, your equalizer. So that's pretty handy. There's a back button to go right back. So this, I guess the thing I'm trying to point out is this is pretty simple to use, and I wanted that also. I wanted something that was simple to use and straightforward. I don't like really complicated menus when I'm trying to drive. I just want to be able to boom, boom, do what I want to do real quick and get on with it. Again, you hit the home button, you can go right back. If you look at Sirius XM radio, same kind of deal. You got information here about what you're listening to. You've got your presets over here. You can go through, you know, XM2, XM3, XM4. You've got lots of different, you know, spots here to put presets, okay? And again, you've got your EQ down here, and you can change the way that you navigate through channels. So you can see right here it says Seek 1. So if I go through my channels here with the button now, it will just like manually go up, you know, to the next channel each time I press that. If you hit this arrow button right here, you can change your seek to Seek 2. And now when I hit this, it'll just go through my presets. See? It's just changing presets. So if you just have like, say, 10 or 15 XM preset channels, you can just cycle through those each time you hit the button instead of going through every channel that's available on Sirius XM. So you can change that very easily right over here just by hitting the seek button. So again, super cool, super easy to use. You can always hit the home button and go back. So I'm not going to go over a whole lot else, but I just want to talk about a few things I don't like about this. Now, I mentioned the volume up and down buttons. Okay, so here's the deal. The stock systems always have a knob to change the volume, right? You can get aftermarket systems that have knobs. They're a lot more expensive typically, and there's really not that many of them to pick from, but there are some out there that have a dedicated knob for the volume, which would have been awesome. But like I said, usually those are much more expensive. Almost all of the head units in this price range, regardless of brand, are going to have some type of buttons for volume up and volume down. And I knew that going into it. It wasn't worth it to me to go up in cost that much to get a knob. But I will say having a volume knob is much, 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 much better. This is really annoying because when you're well, I don't want to make the volume go up and down because, like I said, I don't want a copyright strike. But basically, when you're wanting to change the volume, you have to sit here and peck, okay? You can hold it down and it'll go real slow up or real slow down. If you're using your steering wheel controls, you can't even do that because if you try to hold the button down, sometimes it'll activate other features, okay? Instead of just taking the volume down while you're holding the button down, it actually has, especially if you're on Sirius XM, it has other features where it can actually rewind and that kind of thing, and that's controlled through that button. So you find yourself over here pecking, you know, to make the volume go up and down. I mean, the responsiveness is decent on this, but it's just the fact you have to sit there and peck. So if all of a sudden you pull up to a drive-through or somebody comes up to your window to talk to you or whatever the case might be and you want to turn it down real quick, you can't. You got to sit here and peck, and it's just kind of annoying. And also, you kind of have to look so that you make sure you press the right button. Whereas if you have a knob, it's very intuitive. You kind of learn where it is, you grab it and turn. It's just a lot easier to use. It's more user-friendly to have a volume knob. So I really miss my volume knob. But, you know, I'm learning to live with it. It's not a huge deal. Just something to know going into it. And again, like I said, I knew it was going to be more of a pain, but I just figured I didn't want to spend that extra cash on that. The other thing is let's go home. So when you go to Android Auto and you set up your phone on wireless Android Auto, once it's all set up, this unit will default to Android Auto every time you get in the vehicle. Okay, you turn the ignition on, it's going to automatically go to Android Auto. And I don't like that personally. I wish that you could select whether you want it to automatically fire up Android Auto or not. Now, I went through the manual on this JVC unit. I contacted JVC customer care. I contacted Crutchfield, the people I bought this stuff from. And I went through the Google menus on my phone. I've tried everything I can think of. And they're telling me that there's nothing you can do to change that. That's just the way that this is set up. If you have Android Auto connected to your phone, it's going to automatically launch Android Auto every time. So once you're on the Android Auto screen, you can hold down this function key for 2 seconds. You just press and hold down 1, 2, and then it'll go back over to where you want it to be. You know, because that's what I would rather do. I would rather it start up on the screen that it was at when I turned the truck off last time. I don't always want to use Android Auto. Like I said, I only use it for mapping. Most of the time, I don't need a map to go where I'm going. I want it to be on the XM screen or the FM tuner screen, and I want it to stay there until I need Android Auto. But you can't do that on here. So you have to start the truck. It fires up Android Auto, then you got to hold this button down to go back over to the radio screen. Again, is it a big deal? No, it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those annoyances. You know, it shouldn't be that way. I don't know why they made it to where you can't change that. Very, very annoying. So as far as the menu goes, you've got a lot of things in here you can fool around with. One of the cool things about the JVC and the Kenwood units is that they have some features here in the Maestro setting that will allow you to monitor vehicle functions and things like that. You can see here you've got gauges, so it'll monitor. You can actually set this up and it'll monitor like different you know, things on the vehicle, you know, maybe your oil pressure or your boost level, or, you know, whatever the case might be. There's all kinds of different gauges in here that you can fool around with. If you have the fancy climate control system on your truck, you can control your climate through here. You've got vehicle information on here. Like right here, it's showing you my tire pressures. It's showing the battery voltage, for example. If there's a check engine light, you can see that on here. So it's kind of cool that this head unit can kind of talk to the onboard computers in the vehicle, and it can display information on the screen. Not all of the brands will do this, but it seems like JVC and Kenwood, you know, they're pretty big about providing this for you. So I thought that was kind of cool also. There's some settings here that you can play around with. So that's another thing that I wanted to show you. Now, as far as how this thing is working out overall, oh, by the way, and there's your settings if you want to change your equalizer and all that kind of stuff. You can change your display settings and everything. So, you know, it's pretty easy to use. You know, you're not going to be going through a million menus to get to the stuff you want. Everything is pretty much simple and easy to use. While I'm on this screen, let's mention this rear camera. So on the JVC and Kenwood units, you're able to just take that wire that is supposed to go to the parking brake. You can just take that wire and ground it somewhere. You don't have to go through the hassle of tearing your whole dash apart and running a wire down and trying to get tapped into your parking brake, which can potentially damage your parking brake wire and cause you some other headaches. You don't have to go through all that rigmarole on these JVC and Kenwood units. These are still set up to where you can just take that wire and you can just ground it, and then you'll be able to see the rear camera, which is pretty cool. That was something else that drew me to the JVC. But anyway, pretty simple to use here. Now, as far as how this thing's been working out, it's been great. I haven't had any problems with it. This is a quality brand. They've been around for a long, long time. I used to always buy Kenwood stuff. Seems like JVC and Kenwood kind of, maybe they're the same company. They have a relationship or something, because I noticed that their name pops up a lot together in like documentation and manuals and things. So it's a quality unit. It's been working out great. I've had no problems with it. It was fairly straightforward to hook up. I say that, but you know, if you've done this before, you can do it pretty easily with the Crutchfield instructions. I did have to contact customer service a few times to get some pointers, but once I got it all figured out, you know, I wouldn't say it's any more difficult to hook up than any other unit. Especially if you get that Maestro wiring kit. So it's been a good unit, hasn't given me any problems. Pretty happy with it overall. I like the way that it's easy to use, and it basically does what I need it to do without being overly complicated. So I mentioned a couple of the things that I don't like about it. You know, the screen is kind of glossy, and there is some glare. You might even be able to tell right here on this video. Maybe there's. Let me see if I can move this camera around. Oh yeah, see that right there? See the glare? So you can see, and it's not a sunny day. It's kind of a partly sunny day. There's quite a few clouds out there in the sky right now. You can kind of see how cloudy it is out there. So it's not even a totally sunny day, and you can see that there's some glare. And that's because the lens on the screen here is really a glossy, it's not a matte, what you would call like an anti-glare type screen at all. It's just very clear and glossy, which is great at nighttime, but in the daytime there is going to be a little bit of glare. But you know, it hasn't been a big problem in this truck because the screen is sort of vertical. You know, some vehicles where the screen is angled like at a 45-degree angle. I know like a lot of Toyotas, a lot of your SUVs and CUVs are kind of that way these days. That might be a problem in a vehicle like that because you're getting a lot of reflection coming through the windshield. But on this truck where it's more vertical, it hasn't really been a major issue, so I don't really care about that. But yeah, overall it's working out great. I do like the backup camera. Let me see if I can Show you this backup camera image. All right, let's zoom in here a little bit. See how much more clear that is? You can actually use this, okay? Unlike that little 4-inch screen the truck came with, you can actually use this. You can see the trailer hitch very easily. You can also hit the button on the steering wheel. This button right here that has the M on it. You just press that button and it'll go to a hitch zoom. So now, like when you get real close to your trailer, you can hit that button and zoom in. And now you can just get it perfect. You can even see the ball on the hitch there. You can put it right under your trailer and you're ready to go. Then you can hit that button again to go back to your full view. So I do like that, and you still have your parking lines on there too, which is cool. So that works out great. I wish I could get rid of this warning box up here. You know, I mean, that blocks some of your view up there, which is annoying, but it's a safety feature, so you can't get rid of that, I don't think. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's working out great. It's been a great unit so far. Simple to use. Should last me for a long, long time. And, you know, for the money I've got invested, which is, you know, well under $1,000, it's less than half the price of upgrading to the Ford unit and probably a little more useful. So there you go. Just wanted to talk about that for a minute. JVC head unit upgraded. A lot of people are doing this on the Ford trucks that have those little screens. This is a good one to go with. I really like it. Got any questions about it? You can drop them below. But as for now, I'm going to head on out of here. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.